Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Science with Jane. It's March 25th, Wednesday, and our topic of the day today is weather. So you can see I'm outside the treehouse. The weather is looking pretty cloudy. It's chilly, but not like super duper cold. And right now it is not raining. There's a tiny bit of a wind, but it's not too bad. And right there, I've just given you a very short little weather report. So what is weather? Weather is the conditions of the atmosphere at a given time and place. So obviously this weather report I just gave you only applies to here at my treehouse. And it only applies to today, this morning. This afternoon, the weather could be different. Tomorrow, the weather probably will be different. So weather is really, really specific, and it's really specific to a time and a place. And it's really all about the atmosphere. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are not weather, but that are connected to weather. First, there's seasons. So we have different weather depending on, usually in most places on Earth, depending on what season we're in. Okay, so right now we're in very early spring. So I would expect different weather here than I would in the middle of the summer, or that I would like in January. Okay, so even though weather is specific to each day, the season you're in connects to weather as well. Seasons depend on where we are in our orbit around the sun as planet Earth. And you can go back and do the equinox episode if you want to learn more about that. There's this other term that we use a lot, which is called climate. So climate, I think, is probably the trickiest one. But basically, climate is the overall average temperature and precipitation for a given place in a given season. Okay, so weather is the day-to-day thing, and the climate might be the overall averages for your amount of precipitation and your temperature in a given season. An example of data that would connect to climate would be, for example, how much snow you get each winter, or the average high daytime temperature in the summer in a given place. So it's not day by day, it's like the overall. In the United States, we're such a big country that we have a ton of different climates in our country. We have like a polar climate in northern Alaska. We have desert climates, which have their own interesting things in the Southwest. And we're actually tropical at the southern tip of Florida, in Puerto Rico, and in most parts of Hawaii as well. So we have a ton of range of climates in our country. Because we have different climates, we also then have very different types of weather, okay? Because if the climate is the average overall, what we're getting, then the day by day will also be very different in different parts of our country on any given day. So I am going to recommend, and this document is linked on the link below, that you listen to the Brains On podcast about weather. It's called Weather Watching, the Birth of Forecasts, because there's a ton of good information there. First of all, they talk about how two important tools really helped us forecast weather instead of just describing the weather that we're having right now. Those tools are the thermometer and the barometer. So you can listen to that podcast to learn more about those. Also, there's an interview with Teresa Crimmins from the National Phenology Network. That was something that I mentioned in yesterday's episode called Signs of Spring. Basically, phenology is the study of how plants and animals are changing and how that connects to seasonal change and also weather. So she talks in the podcast about how like a very early spring, in other words, days with much warmer than usual weather in the spring will result in differences in plants and animals. So you should check out that podcast. And again, all these things with seasons and weather are all connected because seasons and climate have an impact on our daily weather. All right, now on to the activities. So let me get my correct page here. Basically, you are going to become weather forecasters, or weather reporters, I should say. So for younger kids, weather. What's your weather today? Now, there are some questions here. First, you need to put the date, because again, the weather is specific to a specific date. And then you need to put your location, so you can write down where you live. Then you're going to write the temperature. So for this, you can look, if you have a thermometer that you can bring outside, you can take the temperature outside. You could just go outside and describe how it feels to you temperature-wise. or you could go to a weather app or website and record the temperature. Okay, the sky conditions. Basically, this means, are there clouds, or is there sun, or is there some of both? So you can look up, like right now, right here, it's very cloudy. I would just write cloudy. Is it windy? Again, you could look online, or you could go outside and see if it's windy, or you could look around and see if like tree branches or a flag, see if those things are moving in the wind for your weather report. And then, is there precipitation? Precipitation is the fancy word for water that falls out of the sky. So depending where you are, this could be snow, or it could be rain or hail or sleet. So you want to write down if it's raining a lot, a little bit, that kind of thing. All right, now you're going to use these answers here to make a weather report. You can present it to someone in your family at home, or make a video of it and send it to a friend or a family member who lives someplace else. Here's a spot for you to draw a picture of the weather you are having today. Talk it over. How does your weather today compare to yesterday? What kind of clothing would you need to play outside today? What type of weather do you predict you will have tomorrow? If you write down your prediction, you can check tomorrow and see if you are correct. Okay, so that's it for younger kids. I hope you have an awesome time reporting the weather and sending your weather reports to other people if you choose to record them. Moving on to the older kid activity, very similar but slightly more advanced. So in this activity, you're going to pick 2 locations anywhere on Earth. You could pick your own location as one of them, or you could just pick 2 random places somewhere on the globe. You can try places that you think will have similar weather, or you could try to pick places that you think will have the most different weather possible. That's up to you. So you're going to write down weather in blank and blank, your 2 locations. Here's a place to write the date, because obviously weather depends what date you're talking about, the location 1 and location 2. And again, very similar to the younger kid one, you're going to record the temperature, sky conditions, wind, precipitation, humidity, and air pressure. So you're going to need a weather app or a website to fill in this data. If you're taking data for your own location, you could do some of that data collection on your own. A word about humidity and air pressure. So humidity is the amount of moisture in the air. Some websites might just say high or low, or some might give a percentage of humidity. Basically, the percentage humidity is how much water is in the air, up to the maximum that the air can hold at that given temperature. So humidity is a little complicated because it's dependent on temperature, but the percentage is the way that most weather reports record that. Air pressure is what you get from reading a barometer. And the air pressure tells you long-term how the weather might change. So you can record that. We're not going to go into the details of that. There's tons of information online. Like I think there's a brain pop on air pressure that you could watch if you're interested in that. So you're going to fill this all out. Options. You could make a weather report for one or both of your chosen locations. You could do this live for a family member, or video it and send it to a friend. You could even pick a location that someone else that you know lives in and research their weather and then send them a weather report. That could be kind of funny. They could let you know if you're right. Then talk it over. How are your 2 locations different? How are they the same? Do these places usually have similar weather? Why or why not? Based on your weather report today, what do you predict the weather will be tomorrow? All right, so this is all about weather reporting, not so much forecasting. The forecasting and predicting, you need to look at trends over time, and you also need to know things about which way do weather patterns move across a given continent. In the United States, they tend to move from west to east, but then sometimes, where I live anyway, on the East Coast, we get more of our weather coming up from the south, which would be warmer generally. And then sometimes we get weather coming down from the north, which overall would be colder. So the whole weather forecasting piece is a little more complicated. And that's definitely something you could look into if you are interested. All right, I hope everyone has a great day. I hope everyone is staying home as much as possible and taking care of yourself and your family. All right, see you later. Bye.